Welcome to this episode of the Strong Kind podcast. This episode is with Matt Kuzdub. Matt is a tennis performance coach. You can find him at Matt's Point underscore tennis on Instagram. He also has a YouTube channel. We talked a lot about tennis, training for tennis, moans and groans that arise while trying to play tennis or trying to train for tennis. We talked about the skill component and the learning component of sports, and in particular tennis. And we just went back and forth and had a really good conversation about, getting older, continuing to play, enjoyment, all sorts of really good topics. It was a great conversation. I really appreciate Matt coming on, and I hope you find it as valuable as I did. If you are stuck in the pain and injury cycle and you want to get back to performing well and get stronger and kinder in the process, please reach out to me at Dr. Dave Strength and Kindness on Instagram. I'd love to help you out in any way I can. Thanks so much for being here. Hope you enjoy this episode. Peace. All right, I'm with Matt Kuzdub. I said his name correctly. He confirmed it, so I'm stoked about that. But Matt is a tennis performance coach. I love Matt's content. But I just kind of want to start off with like, Matt, how long you been playing with tennis for?
Well, that's a long story, but I mean, I grew up playing the sport, right? Like I was competitive at a fairly early age. Unfortunately, where I grew up didn't have indoor courts, so it was sort of just a summer thing for me. But somehow got myself into college tennis, and from there it was I was coaching in the summers already at a really young age. So like 16, 17 years old, I started coaching tennis. And then that just, as I was playing, I was always coaching. Like I never kind of stopped coaching. I didn't want to stop playing either. So I kind of did both in tandem. So yeah, I mean, I'm almost 40. So I mean, I've been involved in tennis probably 30 years. So it's been a
Awesome.
while.
I think I am not very seasoned. I was playing actually 2 times a week before we had our son, and I just have
Yeah.
fallen off of that because it's in the evenings. It's kind of like right in like wind down time. I'm gonna
Yeah.
figure
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
out. And then I rolled my ankle really bad, which has kind of stopped me from getting back into the court for a bit. But this is weirdly my goal as someone who's not super great at tennis, but I think it's like a sport that like I want to try to play. It's like the thing I think I'm gonna try to play like for the rest of my life. Like golf takes too much damn time,
Yeah.
and it's not like kind of back and forth the way that tennis is. Tennis keeps you moving in ways that golf doesn't, right? So if I can, and I think I can, if I can keep training my body appropriately, like tennis is a long-term option. But like, what is it about tennis that I think is like such a really good way to like stay competitive for a long time. If that makes sense. It's like I see people playing tennis into their 80s and enjoying
Yeah.
it. Maybe not being, they're maybe playing doubles or XYZ, but like what is it about tennis that I think is so powerful or that you think is so powerful for people?
Yeah. I don't know if you've been watching the US Open at all, but they have like on the side of the court now, they advertise it as the world's healthiest sport. So that's kind of interesting. I think there was like some studies that came out, or it was, it was going around social, but it's basically chess, but with movement, right? So there's a massive like cognitive element, like decision making, but there's also this incredible activity profile, right? Like where you have to not only be like explosive and change direction, but you also have to have some stamina to be able to like do that over and over. Um, you need some level of flexibility. Um, so yeah, there's just you don't have to, I tell people all the time, you don't have to be, the best athlete in general, like the fastest runner or the athlete that jumps the highest or the furthest or whatever lifts the most weight, but you need a little bit of all of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then there's obviously like, the decision making tactical side of it, which makes it a mental challenge as much as a physical one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the things that kind of like led me to like want to pursue was like a few years ago. It was actually in 2020. So I was working like a home health job, and I was in an area where it was nice out. So like a lot of times I was just trying to get patients outside because we could be outside like their home, and
Yeah.
um even just a little bit of like distancing. And I had this patient who was like, he was in his early 80s, and he had Parkinson's, but like he could go and we could hit like back and forth like on a tennis court. And it just like that was something we integrated in what he did, and it was like so it was so amazing. And it kind of just goes to like the nature of Parkinson's, where it's like when you up the cognitive demand, people actually
Mm,
perform better, right?
mm,
And
mm.
also just getting him doing something he enjoyed was also just like really good for him. And getting him outside. So I think a lot of it was
Yeah.
just like getting outside and turning off the news. But it was like, damn, like this is awesome. And his eyes would like light up when it was like, yeah, we're gonna walk over. Well, we'd drive over the court, like in like a golf cart they had. Anyway, that's some
Mm.
sketch stuff. I probably shouldn't have done that. But anyway, it was
Oh, but
awesome.
it's also, bring up a good point. Like you can play. When I was a kid, there weren't a lot of kids that were playing tennis where I was from. It was a smaller town outside of Toronto, and it's like I had to play with older members. Like a lot of
Mhm.
them were retirees. Like I was a teenager playing with, middle-aged men and older men and ladies and doubles and like, so I was just trying to get exposed to as much of it as I could. And you can play like with anyone at any age. You can adapt the court, like I'll play with my 7-year-old and I'll play, okay, let's play points, but I'm playing left-handed. So
Yeah,
then it equalizes things a little bit, like little things like that. Like it's
yeah.
just you can play with everyone at all ages.
What they have at the University of Iowa is they just call it like cardio tennis, and it's just like short-sided games for like
Yeah.
an hour. And I mean it's crazy. Like I'll go in there and I'll have sat on my butt too much that day, and I'll have like 3,000 steps on my watch, and I'll go do like that for an hour, and I'm like at 1,200. So it's like it got me doing a shit ton of moving and
Yeah.
hitting a ball, and like working on just like using a little bit of my athleticism. I'm not nearly like skilled enough, and that's fine. I think there's that comes. I asked one of the dudes who was like an instructor, like to just give me some tips on like topspin forehand, and he's like, "How long you been coming?" He's like, "I'm like, I don't know. This is like my like third week." He's like, "Dude, just come for like a year, and like a lot of things will like straighten themselves out." And not to say you
Yeah.
shouldn't work on drills and skills and stuff like that, but like that's kind of a segue into like the nuance. I'm assuming you've read The Inner Game of Tennis.
Oh yeah.
What I don't know if I so I've had tennis people say that that book is awesome, and I've had tennis people say like that's like it's kind of woo woo type stuff. What is your take on the
I
whole inner
love
game?
it.
Yeah,
I love it.
tell me more.
I've based so much of my like expanded so much of my coaching off of it. Um, because it works so well. Like tennis is a game of basically timing. Um, you know what I mean? So like you can have the most incredible strokes ever, look wise. Like you look like Federer when you're doing like a shadow forehand or something, but it doesn't matter if like you can't time that swing, you can't meet the ball at the right spot, you can't have the right rhythm on your stroke. And so um I think that's where a lot of that kind of stuff, the inner game, like that stuff can really be helpful. Like a really basic drill that you can practice. I do it with anyone starting out. I think it's in the book as well. It's bounce hit, right?
Hmm.
I don't know if you've heard of that one. It's just like call out, bounce when the ball bounces on the ground, and hit when you're about to strike the ball.
Yeah,
And then you kind of also you want that rhythm to be like bounce, hit. You don't want it to be bounce, hit, or
yeah,
bounce and then like a massive delay. So there's
yeah,
like this rhythm and timing to it. Other things like trying to watch the seams of the ball. Like
Yeah.
I've done that with pro players and they're like, wow, I'm hitting it so clean and pure. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like you're not just focusing on the tennis ball. Like that's a cue every coach has ever said, right? Like watch the ball, but like now you're trying to pick up like finer details,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it zones you in. Like I remember a story about Agassi when he was returning serves, he was trying to call out the number on the ball. He
Yeah.
couldn't actually do it, but just the act of trying to do it, and he was the
Yeah.
best returner of all time. So yeah, all those little things like one, it gets you to stop over analyzing your technique,
Yep.
right? And then it improves on like all the other things that are actually really important in tennis before your strokes. And the irony is that a lot of times it actually improves your technique,
Yeah.
you
It's
know,
wild. Yeah.
when you time the ball well, when you center it well, when you hit it at, you're not hitting it above your head, you're hitting it at waist height. And it ties into like I actually have Rob Gray's book here. Uh um it's called How We Learn to Move, right? Like
Yeah.
he
Yeah. Yeah.
talks a lot about you know, CLA, constraint led approach to learning and stuff like that, and dynamic systems. And you can go down the rabbit hole of that too, but there is like some value in it, and it kind of ties into that inner game of tennis stuff, right? It's like let's focus on what the ball is doing for a bit. Like, can we try like a really simple one we do with kids sometimes is I want you to try to make the ball look like a rainbow as it's going over the net.
Yeah.
And now automatically they solve the problem of hitting low to high rather than you explicitly telling them like swing from low to high.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's like going back to the guy who is like good, kind of just alluding to like, okay, like let's get some reps here. Um, he did mention it's like some of it he's a lot of it's just like if you're in the right spot, like if you're in if your feet are in the right position, like just like let yourself kind of try to put topspin on the ball. Like,
Yeah.
and you know what that looks like. He's like, just like get yourself in the right spot. Like that's the utility of this. Like that's was his kind of point after the fact, right? But
Mm,
it it's kind of wild because there's so many parallels between like lifting. There's parallels between lifting and a lot of stuff. Like that's
yeah.
just the journey of learning, right? But it's
Mm,
what a lot of us do, especially we go through that Dunning-Kruger effect of like, okay, we've learned a little and we want to almost like spit out that information and sound like we know a lot. And then you like go through the loop of, oh shit, like, do I really know what's going on here? And then you kind of come out and you're kind of a little bit more like Yoda, who's just like trying to set up the task for people to perform. But it's like almost ungratifying. Like you have to really trust the coach. Like
yeah.
I have like on Tuesday nights I have like a group of it started out as a group of four women and then they all started to bring their boyfriends or their husbands, right? And like so it's turned into like this group training session and it's fun and but like one of the partners, one of the men comes in and he's like kind of experienced lifting and like he does things like pretty well. And he's like, give me feedback on my squat." And I'm like, "Dude, it like looks pretty good. Like
Yeah.
you squatting more weight is a product of you doing what you just did there for another 3 to 4 weeks and then bumping up the load a little bit." Like
Yeah.
it's there's nothing I'm gonna tell you that's gonna like make you a better squatter right now. Like maybe a little bit of like you could probably, manage your pressure a little bit better, like get a
Mm,
good amount of air, but like, and keep your upper back a little tighter. Like, but it's like people expect there to be like these magic cues for stuff.
mm,
And so much of it's not like that, right? It's like you, the person, understanding the task and trying to solve the problem, right?
yeah. And usually like the simpler the cue and the less cues you provide. Like this is why, with tennis, and it happens in a lot of sports probably as well, but it's like you hear these like I call them like auctioneer coaches.
Yeah.
They're just how can a player focus on the task or what they're trying to do if you're constantly talking to them, not only like between shots, but during the actual stroke? And, it's like, that's not coaching, right?
Yeah.
That's, you're not giving that person not only like the freedom to problem solve, but your cues aren't going to work because you don't know which cue you're actually supposed to focus on here.
Yep.
So
It's
yeah, that's a bit frustrating. Um, but yeah, like keeping it really simple, you know, and knowing what you do have to know a little bit what you want to do. Like let's say you want to hit topspin, right?
yeah.
Well, I have no idea. Like I've never seen you play, obviously. I don't know what type of grips you have on your strokes. Is there different types of grips? I don't know if you know
Oh
like
man, I'm going out there blind. I'm just
Western,
I got the
semi-Western, continental.
I think I
But
got the handshake grip, I think is what I so
like the main thing is like you want to be able to, you know, have like you want to feel like you're almost cutting the ball a little bit,
yeah.
right? So
Okay.
you want to have this like steepness to the ball. That's gonna give you that topspin. If you want backspin, that's kind of more intuitive for a lot of like beginners to hit with like backspin slice. Maybe if they played squash or something, but it's like you want to cut the ball from the bottom, right? And have the racket face open. You need to
Yeah.
maybe know a few of those things, but then you need to go out and like actually explore it because you can't like, as a young coach, I was like, so proud of myself for knowing like, some biomechanics of the forehand or serve. And then I would explain to the athlete or client, like, you have this is how you serve. And I would go through every single motion. It's like that never actually worked. It doesn't matter if they know exactly, every single joint is doing at various moments of the serve. They still have to go out and like get those reps in, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think like we this is going to tie into a lot of stuff I think we're just going to keep touching back and forth on. It's like the desire to shorten the learning curve, right? Which is totally valid, right?
Yeah.
But wanting to get better, this is probably one of my overarching like content themes. It's like you get better when you're better, right? Like
Mm,
you're like that's
mm,
literally like kind of almost this like, but what does that mean? Well, I mean, for a lot of people, it's like if it's coming to playing in tennis, it's like when you've put in the effort, like nobody's gotten good at tennis in like a short amount, like nobody's gotten really good at tennis in like a short amount of time.
mm,
People who are athletic may take to it quicker and start to figure stuff out a little bit XYZ. Honestly, and this is also where we're just tying in like physical preparation. Being more physically fit often allows you to then put in more reps, think more clearly while you're doing stuff under fatigue, and that might shorten the learning curve a little bit. But
mm.
like so much of human nature is just oriented around like how do I not have to suffer whatever that looks
Yeah.
like, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But and I'm sure you deal with this when it comes to both just training and coaching tennis. It's like how do we manage people's expectations along how long it takes to get good, right? And I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's a big can of worms because yeah, you're totally right that when you're fitter, it's going to be easier, and two, when you're kind of more athletically inclined as well, right? Because the thing with a sport like tennis is like you have to also there's a massive like perceptual component to it. Like you got to read the ball coming to you. But then you got to make the movement and like track it down. So if you read the ball pretty good, like whether it's like deep or short, or you pick up really early that it's going over to your forehand side, then you can start your movement faster. So that's going to help. But you still have to have like the movement abilities to like get to the ball, because if you're running through a shot or something like that, it's a lot more challenging, and that's where a lot of people find it challenging to play, like, and you see a lot of coaches like maybe dumb it down a little bit where um they're just feeding the ball, and that person's standing in place and they're being stationary, and that's definitely not the sport, right? and
Yeah.
and that's where it becomes frustrating and challenging for someone um to succeed, right? Because like then they'll go in and play their, even if it's their doubles league or something, and it's a real challenge for them because they're not able to perceive and track the ball. So
Yeah.
that's I think a lot of like just sports is like that's the thing that you should be working on first.
Yeah.
Don't worry about like the technical stuff. You want people to succeed in sports, especially as they're getting older. It's like get them to pick up on these like perceptual cues, you know. I think that's a lot more relevant in any open-based like sports, you know, whether it's like tennis or basketball or, you know, you have to pick up on those things.
Well, it's like it's funny because so obviously like conditioning and strength like help, right? But then
Yeah.
there's also just the interplay of like knowing how to position yourself on like a court and like what during play helps. Like I grew up playing soccer, and I think one of the things that and I played midfield, and like one of the things that I'm not an amazing player by any means, but like I was like I probably could have played at like the D2 or D3 school and been fine, and
Mhm.
like I just chose not to keep playing. Um but like what I think helped me because I eventually played rugby is just like understanding the flow of the sport,
Mhm.
right? And like even if you weren't the fastest, like if you just position yourself well, like you can make
Yeah.
up for maybe not being the fastest. And like there is times when it's like really good to be fast and athletic, obviously, right? But
Mhm.
then when I was playing rugby, it's kind of the same thing. Didn't play a ton of rugby, played it for a couple years, but like so much of rugby is not gassing yourself out because you're gonna get hit. You're gonna like you got to know when to kind of go in on a tackle or go in on a ruck and not, right? And so like there is this giant decision making component that we almost don't talk about, right?
Mhm.
In a lot of these sports where there that's kind of where we're talking about the ability to move kind of sets you up to do those things, right? And you can't move very well if you feel like shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of people feel like shit trying to play the sports they love, and it's because like there needs to be a physical training component. So, segue into just training for tennis. Like what does it look
Yeah.
like? What maybe is different and what is not so different from, good old training?
Um, yeah, that's like I said at the beginning, like you need to be good at just about everything, right? Um, so like if you take an example of someone who's, let's say they're, you know, they're pretty good at tennis, like they have the abilities, that those are the types of people, and I get these clients like more like they've actually played a ton of tennis. They're not beginners, or there's some of them are like elite juniors or high level even. It's like for you to get better now, it's more on the physical side,
Yeah.
right? Because they already have elite, you know, perception and tracking skills and technique and tactics. And so now the next step is like for you to get better, you need to be able just to do those things at a higher level. So like it's been taboo for a long time in tennis, like to lift weights, right? And why do you need to lift weights? Like a lot of sports probably, but you know, it's coming around more. Like you're seeing more pros doing it, so you're getting more people into it. I think lifting is like definitely low hanging fruit for so many, and it's you know it's a sport because for the most part, like you're in these tight spaces, right? Where it's like you're moving, you know, for the most part within this like 3 to 5 meter radius. There are moments when you have to track down shots that are further, and those things are important too. But um, those little movements are actually like they're really force dependent. Like the force characteristics are really high. You know, you need to be able to decelerate. So you know, braking abilities, your ability to brake, like you need that's basically like quad strength, right? Like
Yeah.
eccentric quad strength. That's what you need to be able to do that effectively and get set for your shot. Um, then there's like this in tennis, there's it's not the same as other sports where you're cutting, right? Like on a dime and you know, in maybe like in football or basketball, like there's a moment where you're striking the ball before you change direction.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
instantaneous moment is like that's an isometric essentially,
Yeah.
right? Because like you need to break hard, set yourself, make your swing. So your lower body's like sort of isometric for the most part, your upper body's rotating. Um, and then there's this like propulsive action, right? Like This is like your acceleration, your re-acceleration to either get back into position or track down the next shot. So that's like your concentric force and power, right? So, and those are less plyometric, to be honest, those instantaneous moments, because uh, there's just less shortening cycle activity. Like it's those longer ground contact times. So there's a more, from my perspective, there's a much higher force demand on those in those moments. Then when you start to move, yes, there's more plyometric and like your split step towards the ball, that's more like reactive strength. So there's like, if you really dive into it, there are definitely nuances. So you need, I think, like all of that plyometric ability, the strength and power outputs need to be high, like at a higher level. And at any level though, like I did this program back in the day when I was coaching rec players. It was like get fit for tennis, don't get um, fit playing tennis. Get fit first, then play tennis.
Yeah.
So yeah, so doing that and then being able to repeat that over and over and over again. Um, there's your like, anaerobic components that are mixed into it. So you have to, I think, yeah, like I said, like you need to lift, you need to do your plyos, you need to do your acceleration work. Um, and then where I see things a little differently in terms of like the conditioning side of things is it kind of depends. Like if you're playing a ton of tennis, where I get a lot of players who are playing 3 to 5 hours a day, like I don't know that you need more conditioning.
Yeah.
Like you're getting so much conditioning,
Yeah.
like it's not that you're not under conditioned, you're fatigued. That's why you're not
Yeah.
performing well,
Yeah.
or your carb intake is low, or some combination of other things. Like you shouldn't be unconditioned if you're playing a sport for that long each day, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point. And I think a lot of people, I don't, I, there is always like nuance. Like there's like, okay, like how strong is strong enough, right? How conditioned is conditioned enough? And it's like, well, it depends on like the person and who we're talking about. If
Mm,
you've ever played like any sports game and like those attributes, like oh, speed, like
eh,
you can kind of ask like, okay, what does this look like for a lot of humans there? Sorry, my dog's down here. She's kind of trapped down here. Hey, come here, girl.
all good.
And she wants to go play outside or be with her mom. Anyway, but it's like if you're playing 3 to 5 hours of tennis and like you can actually walk the next day, you're probably in decent condition, right?
Yeah,
You just need, like you said, like you're probably fatigued. And so to some extent, how to buffer fatigue is to get stronger, right? Maybe, right? And if it's something that appears we can work on, like if you can't do, let's say, body weight split squats or even relatively strong, I'm just throwing out an arbitrary movement here, like, or squats, you can't squat body weight. It's like that's probably
yeah,
a link that we could bring up, right?
yeah,
um and most people who can play that much tennis are probably going to be somewhat physically fit, but like it really just becomes this symbiotic relationship. It's like getting fit will play help you play tennis, which will incentivize continuing to push your strength and conditioning. And honestly, that's the other thing. It's like your gym workouts probably don't need to be like that much. They need to be like
yeah,
4 or 5 things, right? That are basically very complementary to what you're trying to do. Like there probably needs to be some type of hinge, some type of,
yeah,
upper body pressing, some type of squatting, and then like some trunk rotational type of thing, right? Like those,
yeah,
it's probably it's not that these things are complex. It's like when we're trying to apply them to a human, we have to navigate the human, right?
mm,
And that's okay. Like I don't think we would have a job, honestly, if it was as simple as do program, right? Like
yeah,
I think that's one of those things is like we're working with humans that have all sorts of biases and concerns, and that's okay. Like again, we're all human. I do stupid stuff all the time, like, and that's
oh
part
yeah,
of why I need to work with coaches and XYZ, right? So, um, you have a good few, like a few of your posts have just been really insightful too. The one recently is just like having like dedicated blocks of training. right? And so alluding to people being able to work through like a really perfect periodized plan, right? Or like to some extent how I look at it, like programs are perfect on paper. Like on
Mm,
paper, pretty much every program that's like decent is like that's perfect. Oh, great, right? They
yeah.
just have slightly different doses. It's like a recipe, right?
Mm,
Um, but in practicality, like everything is messy, right? So let's talk a little bit about like periodization, when it's useful, when it's not. Like, what are your thoughts on it? You've been coaching for long enough to be like, hey, like I'm not seeing anybody run like a 16-week program like perfectly through, and that's okay, right?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I see it like I'm working actually with like Brown University and I do their programming. And in that college context, that would be probably the closest context where I see some form of periodization. Because they have like, you know exactly when they're in the gym, when they're practicing, when their turn like match schedule is. Like you kind of have everything kind of laid out and you can be like, okay, we got like, you know, we got 8 weeks for like a general block, let's say, but uh the general block doesn't, I mean, from a physical standpoint, everything is more or less general. All right.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not like I'm looking at like joint angles and stuff like that in the weight room, and that's gonna like change from a deep squat to like a quarter squat by week 16 or something like that. Um, maybe things just get like intensified a little bit as you get going, but that's true with anything. Like if you just get anyone starting training, you're basically doing, higher rep sets for the most part. Like you don't want, Joe Blow to get in and start maxing out his squat or or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I see things more as like, you know, like with my programming, it's more primarily like a little bit of variety, as you get going. That's what maybe keeps things a little bit more interesting for players. Like, is there that much of a difference between um a regular back squat and, a pause back squat? Like they're both beneficial,
Yeah.
the fact that you're doing one over the other, is it gonna make or break your athletic performance? Probably not. Like I don't see that happening. So I like having plans in place, but like any coach, I think like having a plan on paper, but that it's not gonna it won't last. And how many times do you get a client, that is basically going off script anyway? So a lot of times I'm like, especially with remote people, it's like this is the plan, but just get all of this work done within the next 7 or 10 days or something. And I don't care if you like move it around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter if you're doing plyos and sprints on separate days,
Yeah.
you know? Sure, if you can do them together before like when you're fresh, before your practice, that's great. Do that. But if you're like rushing to the court and you can't do it and you have to do it after, okay, do it after.
Yeah.
You can't do your sprints till late, like do them later. Like the biggest thing is like getting exposure to all of these qualities for an extended period of time, like a long, long period of time. I'm talking like years.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how you're gonna get really like athletic and get all those gains. And
It's
I'm
it's
still trying to get athletic, and it's been like 15, 20 years.
yeah.
Still can't get
You,
there.
you said you're 39, right?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
37, and it's well,
Right.
so there's like two things that I kind of keep coming back to. It's like, damn, and like this is just 21-year-old me would just like outwork current me,
Mm,
but 20 to 37-year-old me is way more athletic because I actually understand like the process. Like if I could get
mm,
myself too slow, I am willing to go the slowest I've ever been willing to go in my training, and it's yielding me the best results, right? Like
yeah.
it's the paradox of actually allowing yourself to adapt to stuff. And don't get me wrong, like I ran 16 miles on Monday because I'm doing this stupid ultra marathon thing. It's like a backyard ultra. You just do 4 miles over and over again. And I'm
Mm,
not like rolling my ankle in April really kind of set me back because I was gonna start running for this thing like right then, and then I just like played basketball, rolled my ankle really bad,
yeah.
and was kind of an idiot and just kind of got on it too fast and just kind of perpetually pissed it off. But anyway, I digress. Um, but like I'm still just fitter in general, and it's because I'm just willing to like let the work do what it's meant to do, right? Over time,
Yeah.
right? And I also just kind of understand that like I always kind of go back to this with clients. It's like good training is a blend of there's principles, then we have to be trying to progress, right? Because if you're not trying to progress, you're not going to progress. So you have to be like challenging yourself to some extent. But then a lot of it is like preferences. So like what do you want to do in the course of a week? What does it look like? What are you training for, right? Um
Mm,
if we mix those three things together, it probably looks like a pretty decent program. But like what you just said is like it really what matters is just like inside it doesn't matter if you do Monday, Wednesday, Friday as like, a bro split type of training, right? And then you do like plyometrics on Tuesday, Thursday. Like that can totally work, right? It just if you're also going to play tennis, you got to balance that workload, right? Um,
yeah.
but inside the course of a 7-day period, we're just like just get this dose of stress and we'll see how you feel and then we'll adjust, right? And then
Yeah.
you do that over and over again. The utility of plans and names, it's almost like branding. It's like if we
Hmm.
brand this 4 weeks as like a development block, people are more willing to accept that, like, oh, I'm just practicing, right? Like,
Mm,
oh, the goal is not to max out per se. The goal is to get better at squatting. Okay, right? And then if we label the next block like intensification, it's like, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to feel like shit for 4 weeks, right? Okay, like
yeah.
that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Oh, peak. Okay, I'm supposed to pull back. And like that's the utility in a lot of it for me is like
Yeah.
giving this overarching structure to people. But
Exactly.
like inside of all those three things, like people are constantly changing anyway. Like, yeah, like in that middle section, it's like if you feel good, you almost should push yourself, like you should kind of take what's there, right? And you got to manage
Mm,
the fatigue there, but like it's almost like we're trying to make this perfect route that avoids suffering that's like not going to happen, right? So like that's why I believe in like the week the micro cycle of a week with like an overarching see how people respond. A lot of people kind of follow the same trajectory of 4 to 8 weeks is where they start to get bored or they start to feel like they're more fatigued. And so you don't just say like let's deload on week 6 for everybody. It's like let's just take a little step back, where it feels like we need to. But that's also the game of it. Is like I don't always know when that's going to be. And when you also give people final point, when you give people permission to deload a little bit, it's almost like they're revitalized. So like, oh, okay, like, and
mm,
then like 2 days of deload, and like, I'm actually feeling really good again. It's like, okay, well,
yeah.
this is weird, but
One
that's
night of good
psychology.
sleep. Yeah.
Yeah, one night of good sleep and eating, 2 bowls of cereal will go a long way, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like I think acute fatigue is like a good thing. Like you need a bit of acute fatigue and soreness, right? Like
Yeah,
that's you've it's a lagging indicator of like, okay, I stressed myself, my body, my joints, my muscles. If it's like so much so that you're dying, then you probably did a bit too much. But if it's I don't remember not being sore on it on a like day-to-day basis somewhere, right? Like,
yeah,
'cause I like to personally, I like to do something every single day, just like
yeah,
probably like you, like mentally, it just makes me feel like a lot better. If I don't do something, I feel like shit. So,
yep,
but yeah, that acute fatigue is necessary when you get into like high level, um, sports. I know some coaches that will be like, oh yeah, like my athletes are fatigued, like Olympic level athletes, like they're fatigued, and that's kind of what we're after here. And they have to just keep going through the program, even under this fatigue.
yeah,
There's probably a little bit of overreaching here, but we know like if we can just get through, their hope is that when they do deload, it's like this massive super compensation, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Those are
it's
at higher levels, but like it's the same principle. Like we need a little bit of fatigue because like that's gonna help you when you do recover. You're gonna be a little bit stronger, a little bit better than you were before.
Yeah. Well, there's so much of a like a mental component of managing the fact that performance is going to fluctuate, right?
Mm,
And like it doesn't mean because it's interesting to me because I think like I don't know, maybe runners. I grew up playing soccer, so I like ran a lot and I got into like 5K, 10K type
mm,
distances. But I never cared what my time was in training. I just was running hard. And then like if I did run a race, like I cared a little bit about that day, but it was also like that was just the race day and it's just like you're letting it all hang out, right? But like but when I go and I lift, there's literally I think it's loading up the barbell does something to me psychologically. It's like, oh shit, like this is 85%. Like if it feels heavy today, you're getting weaker, right? And it's like, nah, I
mm,
mean 85% still heavy, right? Like
yeah.
um and so there's almost that like well, and you also, if you've ever experienced like the newbie gains of being able to just add 10 pounds when you're first starting out, and like that kind of gets addicting, right? Well, you never really get that again unless you're like pivoting and doing something very new or XYZ. You maybe get those gains again, but yeah, it's like it's hard to navigate the mental side of like, damn, I'm not performing as well. But like, well, all we're trying to do is train. Like we're trying to just
Mm,
get you, like and I really think about it more and more this way. It's like we're really just trying to bring up your performance on your average day. If we bring up your performance on your average day over the course of 3 or 6 months, it's like we know you've gotten fitter. And if your medium day or your average day is better than your best day a year ago, like you're in a really good spot, right? But like as humans, it's kind of hard to objectively zoom out and do that all the time, right? Now, something like tennis often bodes itself, well, you're going to play people, right? If you're
yeah.
competitive, you're going to go play people. And if you're winning matches, that's kind of proof in the pudding. Whereas like training, it's kind of tricky. And like that's also where I think the utility of having something like tennis to see if you're getting better, quote unquote,
Mm,
via somebody external is powerful, right? But then you also have to navigate like it's tennis. Like you're playing it for the joy of it. You want to win, obviously. I'm sure you want to win when you play tennis against people you want to beat, right? But it's
yeah.
also like like I don't know. There's that being graceful in defeat type of mentality too. I don't know. I mean, I think Djokovic doesn't want to be graceful in defeat, or none of these guys do at the top do, right? But anyway, what are your thoughts on just like the mental side of performance um and tennis? Because that is one of the things that like I work with people who are really competitive, right? And they're assholes to themselves.
Mm,
And so it's like navigating, and you also just can't say to these people, like, well, it sounds kind of like it's mental because it's not just mental. Mental stuff is physical, and physical stuff is mental, but like navigating those conversations is tricky. Does that make sense?
yeah. Yeah. Like for me as a player, when I play or when I'm like in a competitive period, I'm tough on myself. But I know it's like I'm tough on myself when I'm doing just a basic, like let's say you're just doing a basic cross court drill, you're trying to hit a target or something like that, or you're trying to get a certain number of balls in a row in a certain area. And if I miss, I'm pissed at myself, right? But I know that that's like fueling me to try to be a little bit more determined or focused or something. So I think like probably a lot of these like type A's, I don't think I'm type A at all, but I think a lot of them are probably more like that where they're like it fuels them. It's when it like goes the other way that it can be detrimental, right? Like if it makes you feel if it just drops your performance, you get down on yourself. But I do think, like for me, the mental side of it is also, like you said, physical. And in a sport, it's also like skill. I always try to bring up the player's skill. Because the
Yeah.
player's skill, like if they just get better and better at the sport, um, a lot of the psychological stuff, like kind of takes care of itself. Like
Yeah.
can you like, and I'm talking about skill in different situations. Like for example, when you're being pressured in tennis with like time and space, like someone's hitting really big, but now you've got this skill of defending, like you're better at defending out of the wide corners and neutralizing their shot. Like you're now able to one, it's like it's tough physically to do it. So the fact that you can do it, like you're probably also like mentally stronger, but you have the
Yeah.
skill to do it. So it gives you confidence when you're under pressure. Um, so yeah, I think like improving your skill, obviously improving your fitness to be able to like do that kind of stuff, takes care of a lot of stuff. I'm not saying that there's no need to intervene on the mental side. I have athletes that work with, you know, what I don't know, sports psychologists. I don't know what they call themselves now, mental
A lot of
coaches,
mental performance coach
mental
now.
performance coach and stuff like that. So there's value in that as well, for sure. But like it's not going to magically make you a better tennis player or athlete if you're not also working on continuously improving your skill and your physique. Like there was an interview with Yannick Sinner. He's number one in the world. I had posted this on my story last week because he was interviewed on ESPN, and it was like he was talking about how he still is really far away from his peak, both from a tennis perspective and a physical perspective. The guy's number one in the world. He says he's like 4 years away from being at his peak physically,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's insane. Like they have this mentality of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
Novak Djokovic is doing it at 38 years old,
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
still wants to improve,
Yeah. I
in,
think,
in
well,
some ways.
that's like
So
for me and you, guys like me and you, like who are, 37, 39. It's like, what can I do at like 60 years old? Like
yeah,
it's hard because in the era of social media, like you see people like who are who are gifted and they're good at stuff and you immediately compare yourself to them, right? That's totally cool, right? I don't think comparison's a bad thing. I think it can steal your joy because if you're comparing, yourself to people who they're just different from you, right? Like, but
yeah,
when you just say, what can I do? And you say it's worth pursuing it because I think that's one of the things people get lost in too is like, well, what good is it? Like so many people like never do a powerlifting meet because they don't think they're going to win. It's like the point's not to win. The point's to do the damn thing, right? To show up and
mm,
try and learn, right? Same thing with playing tennis. It's like like it's fun. Most people, if you go and you're practicing and like anybody have done this cardio tennis stuff or even just playing, lessons and whatnot, like there's just super nice people who just want to help you play tennis, right?
yeah.
Um, but like for me, it's like, yeah, I was not a fast kid growing up, and it's like, what can I get better at sprinting at like 37 years old? And the answer is yes, right? Like it's just, are you willing to go slow? Are you willing to like learn and be patient? And yes, your body is like, man, I will say like I could recover from like anything at like 18 years old. Like I could be
Oh
hungover
yeah.
and like go run 5K in the morning and no problem, right? And like I just have a lot more stress on my plate as a 37-year-old dude. Like, um, and that's okay. I think some of it's just learning to
Yeah,
navigate that, right? Like you have kids, right?
for
You
sure.
said,
Yeah. We have a 7 year old who like so active, and part of part of me staying active is just like he likes playing sports. So I just want to also play sports with him,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. And like that's a big goal for training right now is just like I'm not trying to impose training on my kids or anything like that. I just want them to see like being physically fit is something you can do throughout your lifespan, right?
Mm,
And but like that, the Mamba mentality of like just get better. Like it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It's like and you said too, like if you bring up the skill component, the mental confidence goes up too, right? And
yeah.
like that's kind of the power of good training and good coaching in general, right? Is like just create the task and help them build the confidence, right? Um, all right. Aches and pains. You have a good post on aches and
Oh
pains.
yeah.
Like,
I'm dealing with Achilles tendinopathy right now. Same issue. Like I didn't do enough plyos and sprints over the winter. I mean, our winters are pretty bad, and I can do more stuff than I probably did, but I was like, I'm gonna do like lifting, and then I'm gonna like switch over to a bit more plyos and sprints. And yeah, I just went too hard,
Yeah.
honestly. And I was also running a bit, you know, not a ton, but like 15, 20K a week or something like that. And just like you don't know that it's gonna come. But yeah, I think uh, I guess what's the question on aches and pains?
Well, the fact that like you're never going to one of my overarching narratives is just pushing back against this pain-free
Yeah, you're
philosophy,
for
right?
sure,
Like,
for sure.
not
Like
that we don't want people to be in pain, but like pain is a reasonable byproduct of being a physically capable human, is like getting some feedback about, that you did a lot or that, and
it's
I feel,
communication, right?
yeah,
Like you said, like it's that area is communicating to your brain, you know, what's sort of going on. And
yes,
then you take that information and you can kind of deal with it a bit. Like, no, you don't want to be in debilitating pain where you can't do what you want to do, right?
yep,
But like some achiness, like I don't know if I'm pushing my squat, I'm pretty sore and achy in certain areas the day after, maybe a couple of days after. Like I know that it's because of that. It's not because I have you know, some sort of, you know,
degenerative,
severe
yeah,
back injury or whatever, you
yeah,
know, like so I do think like you can manage it, right? And then give yourself that feedback of like, okay, like next time, just like ease into that a little bit better, you know, which is this Achilles thing. I'm actually glad it happened. One is like I'm, you know, I'm learning more about tendon stuff now, so that's
yeah,
positive because like, you know, I want to continue learning. And like two, it's like, okay, like how would I rehab someone with this? Like we really don't get Achilles tendinopathies in tennis. It's not like a
yeah,
thing. You get more like shoulder, you get more elbow, you get low back, hip, knee stuff sometimes. So, you know, that kind of stuff you're always sort of navigating around. But anyway, it's just like the process, like what are you gonna do? Like let's get that thing moving a little bit. Like it's actually pretty straightforward, you know. It's
yeah,
not like you have like this crazy protocol where you know, you can't do anything at all. Like you can actually still do quite a bit even with some sort of nagging little injury, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny because
So
like where a lot of people's brain goes, look, if I have Achilles tendonitis or tendinopathy, right? It's like that put me at risk for
a rupture.
rupture, and it's actually kind of like not
Yeah.
really based on a lot of the
No.
episodes. Like the fact that you're it's communicating to you is like a good sign. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you're kind of on the front end of it, and honestly, if you've as much there's always the risk of you doing something like, like the Aaron Rodgers Achilles rupture was like, damn, that
Yeah.
just sucked, right? And
Yeah.
and sometimes. But a lot of that stuff happens when like people's workload is so freaking high, and the force. Well, I'm getting more and more into just predictive processing, which is essentially like how our brain is like trying to predict everything, right? Because it's more efficient to predict and
Mm,
then to measure the match, right? And like to some extent, a lot of injuries are just like a mismatch of what your brain thinks is happening and what's actually
mm,
happening, right? And so
interesting.
you like it kind of makes sense at this level of one of our professors in PT school was like, he's like, basically a lot of injuries are just kind of you got fooled, right? And sometimes it's really, really dramatic. Like you step off a curb and you didn't know that the curb was there, and you have like your body, like, you miss the step or XYZ, and it just kind of makes sense. But like you still got fooled. And he's like, he actually showed like a tennis player who just took a step in her ACL, and he's like, there's like there was no valgus, there was none of these things that people like say that are big contributor to hers, but you see like anterior translation of her tibia, and it's like she thought something was happening, or her brain, maybe not think is the best word, but like there was a mismatch, right? It
Mm,
was really interesting. And then it's like he's also like, this was 2 hours into a tennis match, so like she's super tired probably, and her
yeah.
brain, XYZ. So, but like I think the overarching thing is like, tennis is it's an awesome it's really just it's an awesome sport, and it's almost kind of worth hurting for, right? But you got to manage those aches and pains along the way, because like they're gonna happen, right? And um
Absolutely. And it's so hard because you don't know, some matches could take 3 hours.
yeah,
Like you're not actually prepared for those you can't really prepare for those demands off the court,
yes,
because like the playing stress is still a stress. Like we often separate, like, training, like strength and conditioning type of training, and then the sport. The sport is actually also contributing to the training component.
yeah,
Like you're still developing your neuromuscular system when you play a sport, like your cardiovascular system, your joints and tissues are adapting to the movements that you're doing in sport, right? So sometimes you need actually the repeated exposure of the sport over a long period of time as well to prepare you for potentially this larger dose of stress, a longer match, a five setter, whatever.
yeah,
Like it's the stuff you do off the court can still be helpful. I'm not saying it's not helpful, but you can't think that, okay, now that I've gone through this 12-week shoulder protocol, my shoulder is not at all at risk of some sort of injury or tendinopathy or something, right? Like I'm
yeah,
bulletproof. No, that's not going
yeah,
to happen, right? Like you have to do the sport, and it also is going to help you. That's why it's so multifactorial as well, because like technique is a factor. How much you're loading it? Are you letting it recover enough?
yeah,
Um, and then your off court stuff. And, like there's just so much to it, right? Where and there's like sports medicine inputs. Like, is that doing anything? It
yeah,
could, like it just there's so much to, like, you could do an amazing rehab protocol, but then you go back into right away playing 5 hours of tennis a day.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I
that's going to defeat basically everything that you've just done.
I literally had a consult with a local tennis player. Like she's in her 60s, and um she's like, I play three times a week, and I'm like, so how long? She's like, between an hour and 2 hours. And I'm like, so what are your expectations like when you go back? She's like, well, can I just like go back to like what I was doing? I'm like, maybe, but
Yeah,
maybe you just need to be okay with like saying I can only pay 20 minutes, right? Like to manage symptoms and build up your tolerance. It so much of it depends on the context of what you're doing, right? And just to your point, like um when I was first starting to do like going and playing tennis recreationally and whatnot, like I had ran a mile, like I'd pushed a mile, like a fast paced mile, and I kind of strained my calf, right? And then it's funny because that kind of led to then like me feeling it in my Achilles a little bit. It's like damn, this cascade of things. But one of the things that helped me just get feeling like more confident was actually going and playing tennis and having like a little bit of feedback as I would get warmed up and be like, all right, can I keep going? And it'd be like, I'd get going and I would, I was just hitting and moving, and like it started to feel better. And then in my brain, it's like, okay, like you don't have to pay,
yeah,
you're doing okay. Like you can trust this a little bit. Like that's
yeah,
kind of why like you have to the thing that you're scared of is like the thing you have to kind of do, and you want to make sure you're pretty prepared for it. And like that's where coaching comes into play, that's where like assessing things comes into play. Like, and truly, like this is the utility of objective, as objective as we can be, strength and conditioning type of stuff. But there's also just an element of like you're not going to get full confidence maybe ever, but like you got to go play to see, right? And that's okay, that's
yeah,
part of it, right? So
yeah.
um
Absolutely, man.
Matt, where can people find you?
I guess Instagram, although I'm not posting as much as I was before, but yeah, Instagram, Matt's Point Tennis. Um, Blog, trying to get into that a little bit more, just for my own mental health.
Yeah.
Um, so mattspoint.com. Uh, yeah, those are basically the two spots. got to get into YouTube, I guess, eventually, but not really posting much there. So yeah,
Are you happy with things on the business front? Like that's I mean maybe that's a deep question, but like
that's a deep question. Like I'm basically mostly remote now. I used to be, it was, a shift, but obviously I was in person for a large portion of my career, and then I started doing hybrid stuff. So a little bit on off in person, a little bit online, and then COVID hit, and then like everything sort of shifted, and I was like, yeah, I'll try to do a little bit more online. So that's where that kind of went. And then just with our family life, it's just a lot easier for me to be around,
yeah.
like my wife has more of a corporate job. She's only at the office a couple times a week, but it's still nice to have someone available, like do drop-offs, pickups, lunches, all that kind of stuff. So that's me. But it's this social media thing is definitely not like it's not when I first started online, I was blogging a lot. So like the
Yeah.
first 2 years I blogged like I almost published a blog like every week.
Yeah.
And that was also not sustainable. I found for myself, like it's really tough. But at the same time, there was something calming about it
Yeah.
versus trying to post on Instagram every single day.
Yeah.
That becomes like, and then you get into like, okay, well, I'm just gonna post like what I feel like posting about, and then that doesn't get as many likes and shares and stuff like that. So you're like, but you know what? Do I care? Maybe I just want to attract the people that I want that are into this, you
Can I be
know?
honest? Like
I'd love it. I'd love it. Yeah.
I post memes and shit, like which I think are just attention getters because they're memes and like
But
I
they're
like
funny. They're great. I
yeah,
love them.
right, right. But like I have tried to just shift more of my reels to just shit that I care about or just stuff that is almost off the cuff thoughts. And it hasn't like been negative any other in any other way than it just doesn't get as much traction on Instagram, but I don't
Yeah.
really care, right? Like
Yeah.
I kind of almost use like memes as like attention getters and like traction getters, and then I use like reels to try to actually convey like a thought that I think is important or whatever. I think you're so right in that. Oh man, TikTok, Instagram, they are dumpster fires of attention and bullshit. Like there's a new Peter Attia clip on deadlifting with Stu McGill, and it's like, God, why are we doing this again? But that's what's gonna get attention. And I think it's just way more worth it for me, for my own mental health, to just accept that I'm just gonna put out stuff that really is only attractive to like kind of the niche people who are gonna follow me, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
For
because
sure.
like trying to cater to the mob just doesn't like
No.
have you ever read did you ever read that like article like 1,000 true fans
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
and that's like it's so true like in our
For
line
sure.
of work it's like we really don't need massive audiences to have businesses that my main priorities are staying in business because it's my livelihood and it's like
Yeah.
honestly the livelihood of our family, but it also if I stay in business, I get to be more present for my kid because I'm home and like I can do all my
Yeah.
work, but it's just way more flexible, right? And we're probably gonna have 2 to 3 kids, and it's like those are my main goals. Is just I set specific goals, and I try to achieve them, and it really just boils down to I need to have a ton of conversations with people, meaning like people have to be interested enough in me, and like good things happen,
Yeah.
but you don't need to freaking get uh 500 likes on a post um
No.
to do that, right? It's got to just be like you're in a niche where it's like people love tennis. A lot of times the people who love tennis are 30 to 60 years old, so they have a little bit of like expendable income, right?
Mm.
Hopefully. And then they value like somebody who cares about their training as much as they do. And I think that's like
Yeah.
super powerful, right?
And I was a shithead before, when I was younger, because I was like my one track was I want to be on tour with a player. Like I want to take him to Grand Slams, and that was like my thing, right? And it's like so many things have to happen perfectly for that to there's 100 players roughly that get into these tournaments.
Yeah.
It's in the world, and then I had like this, like I was completely burnt out because I was coaching like nonstop, and that was like my only, like that was my one track. And then you probably don't know, but I worked. I don't know if you know this company, Push Strength. You ever heard of them? They had the wearable.
Okay.
So I
No.
was I was with them in early days. They were acquired by Whoop
Okay.
a few years back now, but I was like the third employee on there, and it was like massive hustle culture, like startup culture.
Yeah.
I was working, like basically what felt like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for like 2 years. I left tennis entirely during that time, and it was like this is not sustainable either. And then like at the same time, I was like, okay, maybe I can do that in my by myself and uh, create this online business with tennis and then overworked, just like exhausted. So there's trying to find like this, not about, I don't know if balance is the right word, honestly, but just like I'm gonna do this. Like guys like us, we're gonna do this for like a long time. Like
Yeah.
I like learning about, you know,
Yeah.
physical fitness and performance and all that kind of stuff. And I like to share it with people. I'm gonna do this for probably a long time, as long as, I can. So why rush? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
take it a bit slower. Like you don't have to post every day. And I
Have
went
you ever
through
read
this like
have you ever read this book?
a while back. Yeah.
It's like the overarching thing in the first 100 pages is just how like intrinsic motivation is so much more powerful than the external things, right? And
Exactly.
it doesn't mean you don't pursue, like we need money to survive. Right? Like we need money to do things with our family.
Yeah.
But you're right, you have to tap, like if you burn yourself out, you're screwed. I almost said the F word. I think we've kept this clean, so I don't have to put an explicit on this one. Maybe, but anyway,
Yeah.
but like you're so right, and it's almost really easy to get in anything, in tennis, in lifting, in business. It's easy to get drawn into the hustle mentality. And it's not that you
Yeah.
don't have to hustle. Like I think hustling is like one of the most powerful tools. It's just strategic hustling. Like
Yeah.
um
Hustle for like a few hours.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
work really hard for like a few hours, take a
yeah,
break, do it again, and then chill.
yeah,
Go do,
yeah,
go do your fitness, spend time with your family, and then
yeah,
just keep doing that for, again, a long period of time. And you're probably
yeah,
going to be successful,
yeah,
right?
100%. And
But
it's
yeah, it's like this hustle culture of like I need to like grow the business 10x it, and you know
yeah, yeah,
that's where I feel like it just gets, you know, unsustainable. Like so many things have to happen for that to manifest,
yeah.
And do you want it? Do you want that?
Have you ever heard the parable of like the surfer or the guy who is like he's like I get the businessman comes down, takes surfing lessons, and is like, what are you doing? And it's like, I just want to
Yeah,
surf every day and I'm sustaining myself and it's good. And like the guy goes and makes like a surfing company that teaches XYZ how to surf,
yeah,
and then it all comes back down to like, yeah, I sold the business and now I just surf every day again. And it's like, well, you could have just kept that, right? And
yeah,
it's a story.
yeah,
But I'm always going back and forth between like the growth mindset, but like what does that mean? I don't think it's vertical all the time. I think it's like get better at, again, skills. Like I'm trying to get better at writing and communicating my thoughts in a non just crazy person way. I just feel like Steve Brule a lot of times with these like shit that I'm trying to push out, right? Or
mm,
but like even this podcast does not make me money in any way, shape, or form. I
yeah,
just enjoy having conversations with people. And I often like learn a lot from other people, and I put it
mm,
out, and it gets 50 views, and that's great. Like that's fine. It's cool. Like and gets you some potential people to see you and be exposed to you. But like it's the same thing. It's like if everything you do is from this external validation standpoint, you're gonna be miserable, right?
yeah,
So I love that. Well,
exactly,
I'm gonna let you
exactly.
go. I also think I gotta go take over my kid.
Yeah,
But I
absolutely.
appreciate you. Matt Kuzdub, find him at Matt's Point Tennis on Instagram. I'll link that on the YouTube and in the show notes. So Matt, thanks so much. Appreciate you.
Dave, appreciate it, man. Thanks
Good
a
to
lot.
talk. Peace.
Cheers.